Yo, what's up guys, welcome to the channel, and today I'm back for another karting video. So today is actually going to be my first ever race in my own kart. So this is competing at Clay Pigeon Raceway in the IKR Series for round 1. I'm really excited for this one, and we got some absolute banging footage. A bit of unfortunate events as well, as you'll see in this video. I don't want to spoil too much for you, but as you can see in the background, here's a little tiny bit of the highlights of how the day kind of went. But yeah, we'll show in full in this video, so I will be quiet now and let you enjoy it. Yo guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm on the track at Clay Pigeon Raceway. I'm currently going for a bit of a track walk, just trying to learn out some new lines. It's slightly damp. We had a tiny bit of rain overnight, I think, mixed with the fog, the moisture from the fog. I'm slightly nervous because it's my first race, obviously. Yeah, I decided to get up early, try and get some early track walk. I'm currently just going through, well, it looks like the S's, which is probably one of the most difficult parts of the track personally, but I have to be slightly quiet because, like I said, it's quite early, just gone 7:15 right now in the morning. And yeah, I'm going to try and vlog everything I can for you today and see if we can have a bit of a banger. Hopefully we can get some good racing as well and maybe a good result. It's going to be a bit difficult because, like I said in my Mansell's testing video, I've got a pre-evo compared to other people's evos, so it's a bit slower. But I think I have a good chance to try and maybe get some decent result, hopefully top 10. And yeah, let's just see what happens. Oh, I've never actually seen this curb in like person. Obviously going around in my car, it's a bit difficult to suss out how big it is, well, unless you actually ride it. But I'm sort of like, it's quite big, as you see. It sort of like goes flat at the end there, and then like it raises up. So yeah, that's gonna be quite interesting as well. It's quite steep. Oh man, no wonder why when Nathan ran over his tyre on that curb, it came flying off and he ended up over on the grass there. I mean, I'm kind of understanding why now. So boys, if you want to see our nice little setup we've got going on here, it's quite good actually. I'll show you it. So as you can see, we've got my car there, all the wheels off because we're actually going to have to change the tyres around. We have to actually put on these brand new maxis, which is going to be kind of interesting. I've never been on maxis before, but we'll see how they go. But yeah, my car, obviously I've actually got a 128 sticker on the back now. I picked that number because it is the number I used when I first raced it at Clay Pigeon Raceway just over 2 years ago now, so that's pretty good. Then we got Peter's car, and again we have to chuck the maxis on. So yeah, we got a little setup. It's pretty nice, not gonna lie. Really good. So yeah. Yo boys, so it is now 9:30 and we're here. We're all ready. We've got the armoured rib protector now because yesterday I did some testing and my ribs ached. So yeah, we're just getting ready. We've got the weights now, by the way, because I needed weights to race it in IKR. So I think we're all good. I think we're all set. So hopefully this will be an absolute banger. Let's go to it. So here we are then, start of race day, and we are actually just about to go out for practice 2. Sadly my camera actually didn't record practice 1, which was a bit of a shame, but nevertheless it recorded practice 2, which I was still pretty happy with, and I actually got my better lap time in practice 2 as well, so I guess that's not all bad, to say the least. As I was coming out, I had to watch out for a couple of people who didn't get away, and as you can see, as soon as I got on the power, I almost lost the back end there and just caught it. This was because it was pretty brand new tyres. Like I said, I've only done one session on them previously, and also they were stone cold, so it was pretty difficult to warm them up. But nevertheless, as you can see here, just sliding through and going very slowly, understeering a bit, but after I managed to warm them up a little bit, it just took, well, basically a lap or two to warm them up. As I warmed them up, I managed to push a bit harder and actually get a new personal best ever on this track here, which was a 35.7, which I was pretty happy with, to say the least. So yeah, I wouldn't complain about that at all. I think this was a lap here that was my quickest one as we came down towards the hairpin section. We really tried to keep the power down to avoid dropping too lower revs and getting a bad exit out of the hairpin. Through the horseshoe very nicely, running as much of the inside curb as possible, trying basically take the shortest line through the horseshoe as possible, taking it very nice and wide out of the final corner, and that was my fastest lap of the session there. As you can see, as we come to the final corner for the final time of practice, we actually lose the back end a bit there and nearly end up in the barrier, which would have not have been good just before qualifying. But that is our practice session over, the last practice session before we jump into qualifying. So yeah, next we just have to concentrate on qualifying and basically see how that goes then. So this is it then. All the practice I have done in this kart throughout the past year, I now need to put it all to good use and try and get a quick enough lap in qualifying to get myself as high up the grid as possible. And as you can see, coming out the pit lane here, you'll notice someone lights up the rears here and spins it on the pit lane exit, which is not great for him. Luckily we don't do that, so that's just one benefit that we have there. But as you can see, the tyres are so cold, we just understeer straight off track. Luckily no one tries it down my inside and wrecks us both, but nevertheless, because it's about qualifying and about good lap times, I pull over to the left here just to let everyone through. I want to just get some clean air, clean space, don't get blocked up at all, and just do my own lap really on my own. I wasn't really too worried about slipstream because the straight isn't quite long enough to get a massive toe, so I just concentrated on really using human DRS by putting my head down, as you'll see here, just constantly putting my head down the straight. And then as we start our first hot lap now then, as we run down towards turn 1, very nicely through turn 1, through the S's, again I take it very nicely, running the S's curbs very nicely, nearly hitting the massive sausage curb on the exit there, but just avoiding it. You don't want to hit that at all. Through the hairpin section, a fairly decent exit, a little bit of a slide there, but not too bad. Through the horseshoe very nicely, using as little of the track as possible there. As you can see, we just basically ran the curb, but through final corner I messed it up just a tiny bit, which wasn't great, but I still have many more laps. You get 4 minutes in qualifying altogether. So lap 2 here as we run down towards turn 1. Turn 1 was much better for my lap 2, and through the S's I did mess up just a little bit there. I didn't run it as best as I could have done, as like I did in lap 1, so that lost me a tiny bit of time. Then down towards the hairpin section, once again it was a bit better of an exit through the hairpin, but it probably could have been a little bit better nevertheless. But again, we don't run the horseshoe curbs very nicely there. Through the final corner was a lot better though, that was much better than last lap. But here is my best lap then, as we start lap 3 now, run down towards turn 1, once again taking turn 1 very nicely, use the curb very aggressively there, got a very good exit, run the curbs through the S's very nicely, run the track out as wide as possible, run down towards the hairpin, slam on the brakes, avoid a lockup though, try and get on the power as early as possible, use as much of the outside curb as possible, through the horseshoe, just avoid that first curb, hit the second curb there very nicely, easy flat through this next section here. Now up to final corner, take it very nicely as we're getting off track camera from Nathan here, as we use our human DRS down the straight, and that was my fastest lap time, which was a 35.9. so we didn't do as well as we did in practice 2, but nevertheless I was fairly happy with my first qualifying session. And sadly though, it was only P15, which was a bit of a shame. And then we had this awkward moment where I found out I actually had to push my kart back into the pits and into the scrutineering to get weighed up with the kart, and yeah, make sure I was the correct weight and everything. Okay, so boys, it's actually starting to rain right now, and yeah, we kind of don't have wets yet, So the first heat's going to be kind of funny. What do you reckon?
That's not even looking at me, it's looking at my shoe. Yeah, it's going to be a difficult one.
Yeah.
But, you know, we'll make with what we got, and hopefully we'll be alright.
Yeah. I mean, qualifying was pretty decent, wasn't it? I mean, P15, not great. Yeah, P7 in first practice, P11 in second practice, and then P15 in qualifying, which wasn't great. I just ran out of talent. But as you can see, yeah, it's starting to rain out there. Which is going to be interesting because some people are going over to wets. We're going to stay on the dries. So, yeah, we should have to see what happens, I guess. So here we are then for my first ever race, Heat 1 in my own car, which is going to be quite interesting to say the least. As you can see, it is quite wet and we're on the slicks. And I didn't know whether to have the flap open or shut, so I actually asked Peter here. Oi Peter, open or shut? Open? Alright, open. If you're wondering why I didn't have any wet tyres, I do have wet Mojo tyres, but you can only use wet maxi tyres, which I didn't have sadly on the day with me. As you see, I got blocked up a bit here and I just got told to go, so I just carried on anyway. So I would have been starting up a little bit higher than P15 in the first place anyway. But straight away coming into turn 1, I knew it's definitely not weather for slicks because I just went straight on here and just kept out the barrier. Luckily I do have a tiny bit of experience driving on slicks in a car in the wet from Club 100 well 2 years ago actually to nearly this day. So yeah, I tried to use that, but these cars have a lot more power, so the rears just spun up. You just kept going straight on, you couldn't do anything. I tried taking a wet line here, as you can see, going quite wide and trying to get a better exit, but I just kept sliding everywhere and I tried to keep it out. I said to Pierre straight away, if it's too wet I'm trying to bail out because there's no point of just racing around on slicks whilst everyone else is on wet. So there was a couple of others who gambled for slicks as well, but they all bailed out as well. You know, they didn't feel it was worth it, so I just straight away bailed out and dove into the pits because I knew it wasn't worth me risking my kart and maybe even myself. So yeah, I just bailed out of that one sadly. It's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible. So sadly I actually ended up missing Heat 1, which was that race that I tried to compete in, but it was just too wet. And I ended up also missing the pre-final because it was still too wet. It was drying up quite a bit at that point, but it was still too wet for slicks. So the next race was the final, and I actually got to compete in that one. It was dry enough for dries, and everyone went on to dries at this point. So yeah, I just unfortunately didn't record any more footage between, well, the Heat 1 and the final. So now we move on to the final though. This is it then, boys, the final. This is where the points are made. Obviously, because I couldn't make the Heat 1 or the pre-final, I am sadly starting dead last in P18. So I've got some work to do, which is kind of a shame. Plus, obviously, like I said in the intro, I am in a Prevo, so straight away I'm at a disadvantage as well as starting last. So we're going to have to try and make some time. In this series, you're also not allowed to weave on the formation lap. You get one formation lap and you're not allowed to weave, or else you get pulled into the pits for a technical flag and they'll check your steering column. And as you can see, I flipped open the flap there just before we're about to start, just coming around the final corner now. Obviously I've done a rolling start before in Club 100, so I was kind of used to it, so I just have to try and get a good start here and try and make my way up as high as possible. As you see, someone actually started alongside me there, and I'm on the outside, so that is classed as dead last. And now I'm going to try and go around the outside of him, but sadly just go a tiny bit wide there, so I just need to try and make my way around as many people as possible and try and get a good exit out of here, try and get in the slipstream of the car that flew past me at the beginning there. Going to try and go around the outside of the car number 44. Now try around the outside once again. He might cut me off here, so I'm going to have to just slow him behind, and I hold position again in dead last. So I'm going to have to try and battle my way up as quickly as possible. We got 10 minutes plus an extra 1 lap as well as the 10 minutes, so we do have time to try and make up places. So I just got to try and concentrate, not rush anything too much, and just try and make my way up as best as possible really. As you see, this kart number 44 is kind of getting in the way a little bit here. He's dropped off a little bit from the pack. Meanwhile, I'm seeming quite a bit faster than him, but he's just defending, so I'm going to have to try and find a way around him pretty quickly so we don't lose touch of the pack and maybe be, well, last or second to last at the best. But nevertheless, we're just going to keep pushing on, try and follow him as best as possible. This is basically my first ever major battle in my own kart, so I really do have to watch out. I don't want to get damaged or anything and ruin my race or anything like that. Obviously it's really expensive running a kart, so I don't want to damage it in my first outing in a race. And look at that, that's someone gone off there who's actually retired from the race, so that's us up a position straight away, which is very nice for us, to say the least. My aim was to try and get at least one overtake in this race, so I've made a position. It wasn't an overtake, but nevertheless made a position. You got to be in the race to, you know, get the points. So yeah, I have straight away gained a position, but my aim, like I said from the get-go, was to get at least one overtake. So I'm going to stay on the back of this Kart 44 here as long as possible. As you see, the 95 of Patrick there really struggling. He had engine issues, like I said before, all day, which was a massive shame for him. So he was really struggling in this final, as you can see, and we're just all over the back of him, me and Kart 44 here. So this could be opportunity for us as I send it down the inside of Kart 44 into the hairpin section. Sadly though, he gets a much better exit. I go a tiny bit wide, so he gets back around me, around the outside there, and into the horseshoe, which is a massive shame, and he closed the door on me a bit there, but nevertheless it was a good cutback from him, which I appreciate. So he's just going to make my life a little bit harder, but nevertheless I'm up for the challenge, I'm up for the battle, and he slides there through the kink. He gets on a little bit of the wet patch there, and I nearly go into the back of him. That was super close there, but I just avoided him by the inch of a hair, thankfully. So we really got to watch out for damp patches, especially through that kink section, because you're just going flat through there in these karts, and the high speed, you just don't notice that you run over a puddle or a little bit of dampness on the track, so you just lose the back end. You could end up in the tyre barrier, especially if someone's behind you and they smash into the back of you because you lost the back end, which luckily I just avoided him. That did scare me just a little bit, because obviously, like I said, I didn't want to damage my car in my first race, but thankfully I managed to survive, he managed to survive, so we battle one. Now coming through the S's once again, taking it very nicely, got a very nice exit out of there. He gets a much better exit than me though, just showing how good he got there. Now into the hairpin once again, see if I can try and get a very good exit. It's an okay exit, it's not the greatest though, and again we're still falling out of touch here from the pack, so Kart 44 kind of needs to push up a bit, or else we're just going to lose touch from the pack, and it's going to be a massive problem if I do eventually get past him. I didn't want to wear my arms out too much and my ribs out too much, because the problem I was finding was it's very physically hard to handle these karts for 10 minutes straight plus an extra lap. So chasing down someone is very difficult, but I had so much adrenaline just pumping through me. I just wanted to get past him as quickly as possible, and I found chasing someone is very helpful for making the distance, because you're just thinking get him, just get him, and you don't even think about how it's wearing your arms out or anything. And I didn't even notice it until literally after the race. So yeah, I was just battling Kart 44 very nicely here. As you can see, Patrick really struggling and having some more issues there. He's so slow down the street, you can just see the difference. 44 backs off a bit there though, because it's very risky, and obviously he already lost the back end from a damp patch there, so he didn't want to risk it. Once again we go through the S's once again though, get a very nice exit, much better than last lap, as we can try and maybe try another move out of the hairpin this time, and we try and go alongside of him, but he gets a pretty decent exit. And can we try and go around the outside of him through the horseshoe? Is this going to be possible? Now down the inside of Buttons Bend, and somehow we made an incredible overtake there through horseshoe around the outside and then down the inside of Buttons Bend. That was an incredible move, to say the least. And now we can concentrate on trying to chase down Patrick and then try and chase down the pack, which we've kind of lost touch with a bit, which is a bit of a shame, but nevertheless we'll push on and try our best to see what we can do from here. About a lap later, I managed to catch back up to the back of the 95 car of Patrick. Sadly, he again was just having so many engine issues, which was a massive shame for him, so he pulls over to the side and lets me through, which was very nice of him, so I could try and catch up to the back of the rest of the pack, who is up the track a bit, so we're going to have to push quite hard if we want to have a chance of getting any more positions. So yeah, unfortunate for Patrick, but I guess that's an opportunity for us and an extra place made up for us. So now I just got to do some massively quick push laps basically qualifying laps all the way to the end now and try and catch up with the rest of the pack, which is going to be very difficult. So coming towards the end of the race, I started noticing I was actually catching down Alex ahead of me, who was another LPR member who was pushing all race, and I was still pushing, doing full qualifying laps basically all the way throughout the race just to try and catch up with everyone else. And he even said to me after the race that his arms were absolutely done for coming towards the end of this race. But like I said, I just had so much adrenaline going through me. I was just thinking, right, just push, try and catch down as many people as you can, really. So I didn't even think about it too much. I was just going full at it, and luckily it looked like it was paying off, because somehow I was still catching, just absolutely pushing to the limit and managing to catch me down very nicely. I did think before the race, I wonder if there'll be anyone that suffers with achy arms and their ribs aching a bit during the end of the race, because it is quite physically active doing this. Like I said at the beginning, it's very difficult to try and go 10 minutes plus an extra lap after that for straight pushing. So yeah, I was just thinking, right, just go for it, go at it and see what happens. And luckily I seemed to pull it off and somehow didn't have too many problems with achy arms or achy ribs. And I think what helped was because I've been always practicing with no rib protector, and today I was using a rib protector. Thank you to Nathan for letting me use his. So yeah, it was a bit easy on the ribs today actually, which was nice. But I was absolutely flying catching him here, and through the S's I just caught up very nicely. And I think he knew I was behind him at this point. He had no chance of defending, so he decided to just let me through into the hairpin, and I managed to make it up to P12 very nicely, which I'll take. Everyone else, well, a couple of people DNF'd. That's how I got up to P12 at this point, and then obviously that overtake there. There was another lap car just ahead of me who again was struggling with making the distance because of achy ribs and achy arms, and at this point it was just coming on to the final lap. I still thought it was a position, so I was still pushing, going right at it, thinking I was still going to be able to get P11 or something. But afterwards, checking the results, I realised it was only a lap car, which is a bit of a shame because I probably could have just taken it a bit easy from now, but instead I was still fully pushing, thinking I was going to get an extra position, as well as just overtaking Alex back there as well. But nevertheless, I took a bit of a risk coming through here. I thought, you know what, it's literally the final corner, let's just send it down the inside into the final corner. Made the move stick. It was a lap car, which was a bit of a shame that I could have made an extra position. But nevertheless, we managed to start final lap now. I thought that was the final lap, not gonna lie, but nope, we got one more lap to go. And yeah, I think we're gonna come home in a solid P12, which I'll take any day of the week in my first ever race in my own kart. So yeah, I can't complain about that at all. It definitely went fairly decently. It was a bit of a shame about the wet and the fact that I didn't have wet maxis, but next time I will make sure I have some just in case it does end up raining. But we come around the final corner then to round off my first race day in my own kart in IKR, and we come home in a solid P12 position. I definitely can't complain about that at all. Right? Oh,
I was hurting.
yeah.
I had to let you go, I was hurting.
Yeah, it takes a lot out of you.
You don't need to weigh unless you want to weigh.
Oh yeah, I'll wait.
But you just get your transponder.
Yeah, cool.
And the next one. Have you got away?
There you go. That's alright. Yeah. There you go. Fucking go, boy.
You fucking legend.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, I took it off. You have to, yeah. Let's go. Woo! Let's go, man. Yeah! We did it. There we have it then. That rounds off my first ever race day in my own kart in the IKR Clay Pigeon Raceway Series. I have always wanted to race in my own kart, and as you could tell by my reaction at the end of the final, it really meant a lot to me that I got to race in my own kart. And even when I only got P12, you know, it was a massive result for me, and I was really happy with it, and I could not wait until the next one. I'd like to just quickly thank Peter, Rick and Nathan right at the end of this video, because they have helped me out a lot with managing to maintain my kart and getting me to the race meetings every time, getting me to test sessions and helping me out just everything. So I really wanted to thank them at the end of this video, just to show my appreciation towards them. But yeah, I'm going to leave this video here. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure to like and subscribe. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.